Goeiedag dames en here, dit is die Orania Beweging wat met julle gesels en vandag het ons vriende uit die VSA wat Orania besoek om die waarheid te sê, 'n gemeenskap wat hulle self die Orania in Amerika noem. With me I have Eric Orwoll. Eric, welcome very much in Orania. I hope you guys had a fantastic time here.
Yeah.
Just start with introducing yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are and then we will follow that up with some details about your community.
Sure, right. Yeah, my name's Eric Orwoll. I'm the president of the Return to the Land Association in the U.S. We aspire to enable and facilitate intentional communities to form in the U.S. around culture, integrated cultural identities, preserving our heritage. It's something that, of course, we're taking inspiration from here, and we've had a great time. People here are very friendly. A lot of tasty, things to eat, good restaurants. So we're learning a lot. We're going to incorporate a lot of what we're seeing here in the States.
Great, fantastic. Eric, tell us a bit about your community. What exactly are you? Where are you located? When did you start? Things like that.
We started a little over a year ago, and we are in rural Arkansas. Most of Arkansas is rural, of course. We're on 150 acres, and it came together relatively suddenly. There were a dozen of us that decided to pool resources together. We were doing a work party, so about a dozen guys came down to my property, actually in southern Missouri, about 45 minutes away from the land that we actually bought, and they were helping me develop infrastructure for a school. I always wanted to start a kind of classical philosophy institute for young men primarily, so they came to help, and seeing the area, seeing the land prices, it's very affordable there. They got on board. We felt a kind of spirit joining us and a calling to do something more. So we pooled money together and bought that land. And now about 30 people a year later are living there. 30 more or so have bought in and haven't actually moved down yet. And there are about 200 people in our association. We're constantly getting new applicants. We have a vetting process. So people visit our website, fill out a questionnaire, application. We have an interview with them, and then they can join the PMA. The main goal is to collectivize legal research, legal funds, and also spell out best practices for how to actually go about founding a community. I know of several similar projects. Most of them are low key because the legal situation is a little delicate and you have to tread carefully. So the PMA is intended to facilitate people who want to form, culturally integrated traditional communities.
So in Orania we have on the one hand institutions like the Orania movement, which is our ideological drive and kind of the basis of our idea and our ideals, from where things originated as well. And then we have the physical reality, which is Orania the town, the greater Orania. So it seems like you have the PMA, Return to the Land, as kind of your umbrella organization,
right?
The facilitator of the greater process of communities such as yourself, and then you have the specific community which is in Arkansas. Am I correct in that? Kind of an ideological institution and a physical community?
That's right, yeah. And the first physical community is about as broad as the association. Not all of us are Christian, most of us are, but there are a few pagans. One requirement is you can't be an atheist, you can't support LGBT value. There are certain common values that we do share, but they're very loose. Future communities will be more restrictive, where we might have communities of only Christians, only pagans, and things like that. But we're all really just joined by a love of our people in the broadest sense. We want to preserve a place in this world for our people. A few large families, many of the families they have 4 to 8 kids, so there are a lot of young children running around there, and we all value education as well.
Yeah, speaking of, if I understand correctly, in the light of the American public school system and kind of what I will call maybe in to some extent, broadly speaking, a lack of education and oversupply of propaganda in such institutions, I understand that it is required in your community to homeschool, and it's a requirement that you do not have kids in a public school.
Right, because kids go to public school, they pick up bad habits from kids who are falling for the propaganda or who are picking up bad habits themselves from social media. Some of us have bad experiences with our own kids getting in the wrong circles on social media. So we believe in creating better control for what our kids are learning, who they're spending time with. I mean, we do allow them some freedom. They roam around the property. They really enjoy, being out in nature and exploring. And that's how childhood should be. And especially traditionally in America, if you've read Mark Twain, Huckleberry Finn, that Tom Sawyer, that kind of thing. Like that's the aesthetic. That's also the region of the country, of course. Mark Twain, Huckleberry Finn, these characters lived near the Mississippi River in Missouri, fictionally speaking, and so we're in that neck of the woods, that part of the world, and it's a nice kind of Americana aesthetic to have all these kids exploring the natural world. We do want to create a homeschool co-op, not a school, because the accreditation process is complex in the US, and a community like ours probably couldn't legally have an official institution, but we are having a kind of one-room schoolhouse, the traditional American system. A rural community would generally have one mother from the community. They would teach all ages together. Kids would help each other learn. So we're planning that now. We've just gotten the first building that will be that one-room schoolhouse. But officially speaking, we are all homeschooling our kids. We do allow, however, private Christian schools and things like that if parents choose.
What inspired you to start?
Well, it was my children. It was worrying about what the country is going to look like for them. I grew up in Southern California as a minority, and when my parents grew up in the same area, they were in a comfortable majority. I saw that my parents had lifelong friendships and contacts that they valued very highly, and I sensed that as I got older, the cultural and even racial differences between my peers created a gulf. Children don't pay attention to those things all the time, but as you get older, who we are and where we come from becomes a bigger part of our life. And so as I got older, I sensed those differences, and I sensed an alienation from my homeland. And when I go back home to where I grew up, I feel like an outsider. I feel like I don't belong there. So I wanted to make sure that my kids had a place where they felt like they belonged and they felt at home.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can ask South African Afrikaners what it feels like to suddenly become a minority in your own country. Not only a minority, but also a second-class citizen. And that is not something that I would wish upon friends abroad. My second question is, in the light of the fact that you started about a year ago with the year and a half ago, the physical reality of the community moving there, what's kind of some of the first experiences that you had, some of the things that changed your mind? I think we all have preset ideas starting with things like these. We have kind of idealistic ideals and we try to move in a certain direction, and when you start, you're confronted with reality. It's also, I think, a Orania thing. It's nice to be idealistic, but suddenly when you start, there's a reality. Mm-hmm. What are some of the lessons that you learned since starting a year and a half ago?
Well, we're starting on raw, undeveloped land, so there are no houses for people to move into. We liked that idea. We liked the idea of kind of camping and roughing it and developing from scratch. Now we understand the value of air conditioning. We understand the value of climate control. And so in our next land purchase, we're going to highly prioritize workers' housing. I think that will be essential for having a working crew that feels motivated. When you're barely able to wash your clothes and cook your meals and you're just struggling to survive, it's very hard to find, the work ethic to get out there and work 8 hours, 10 hours a day in the hot Arkansas summers. So that's one big lesson.
Yes, that is a very important lesson. We learned that lesson as well. It's like Maslow's pyramid, you're so focused on, you want to focus on this ideal, but there's so many bottom
Yes.
layer things. Okay,
Yes.
Next question is, you've been visiting Orania. I think the total stay in Orania is about 10 days. Why did you come and what did you see here?
Well, we came here because Orania is the leading example of this approach to protecting our respective European identities. There's no one else in the world who has developed as far as you have. And what we've seen is surprising. I didn't expect so many thriving businesses. Like, it's not just a matter that you have created a settlement for yourselves that's functional. It goes beyond what's functional. There are things here that are essentially luxuries, the riverside cabins and restaurant, and like, this is something that would be an upscale restaurant in it would be a high class dining establishment in Arkansas. So it's really amazing how far above just the mere necessities you've gotten here. And that attention to detail in civic design. You have, walkable, kind of human-friendly public spaces. It's really inspiring. Also, just the warmth of the people that we've spoken with. Everyone is happy to talk with us. Many people have been happy to, even be recorded for our documentary that we're making about Orania. We want to show Americans who value their identity that there is a real path forward for you. And it's not like no one has done this before. The Afrikaners have, Orania has, so that's why we're here.
And then I want to ask you, except for businesses and practical things, civil things and so on, maybe, I don't know, ideologically or so, what did you have in mind? What did you expect looking at Orania online, maybe contacting people from online sources into coming here? Did your perspective on the Orania idea change at all?
Well, yeah, I was aware that you were organized around a share block company. We are similarly organized. I think it's an effective and legal way of organizing something like this. I was aware of your own land, own work, own institution policies. We've emulated those policies already, but the division within the division of bureaus within your municipal government, again, I was just surprised at how sophisticated and thoughtful your approach is. So I think I haven't been completely surprised by the contrast between what I saw online and the reality. It's just the reality is more developed, more well thought out, more complex than I could have gathered online.
Fantastic. If either people in the US or Afrikaners wants to know more about what you guys are doing, what's the appropriate way to do that?
Sure. So you can go to our website, returntotheland.org. You can follow me on social media, on X, Aarvoll, AARVOLL _, and I post stuff about the community and what's going on there. We also have an official RTTL X. What's the handle for the X? It's at RTTL official. But if you just search Return to the Land, you'll find our social media. And we're always willing to talk with people who have questions. So I'm available to talk to the Vice President, Scott, who's here as well, is happy to answer questions about what we're doing. And we're also willing to take visitors. So people have come down to Arkansas and visited. We have big events twice a year for PMA members. So the number one way, if you want to learn more, is join the PMA, talk with us. We have a very active Telegram group, interesting discussions. Of course, I said we have pagans and Christians, so we have theological debates very often, and it's heated, but it's friendly, and we all realize that the bigger picture is what matters, and we're all dedicated to that, preserving our peoples.
As they say, the oldest pagan tradition, or the most well-shared pagan tradition, is converting to Christianity. I hope that our Western brothers and sisters will follow that old tradition. Finally, Eric, you've been in Orania. It's the start of a new year. What is your New Year resolution, or wish for us, or wish for your own community that you can leave people as a final thought?
Wow. Well, my wish for Orania is that the people here realize just how exceptional what you're doing is, and develop a deeper sense of appreciation, gratitude, and just understand how special what you're doing is. Many of the people we've spoken to have an intense sense of pride in Orania, and rightfully so. And I would like to see more people in Orania just realize, even though you have your own struggles, realize how good you have it here and how important what you're doing really is. With our project, my resolution now is to dream bigger and aspire to do something more on your scale. We've been focused on kind of agrarian, small scale settlements. And now seeing all your public spaces, I want, mixed use, commercial, residential spaces, office buildings. And I think, with the documentary we're making and showing people what's possible, more Americans, identitarian Americans, will want to follow suit. So that's my big dream: build bigger.
Eric, to you, to Scott, the Vice President also here, and Pat, who've also come along. Thank you guys for visiting. Thank you for being good guests and having a positive attitude, and also, re-inspiring us by seeing some of the pioneering things that we experienced many years ago, and that's easily forgotten when things go better. It's remarkable to have that drive, to be willing to camp and to rough it out in order to start your community. So we are very thankful to meet with you. To our friends in the US, I keep good hope and find like-minded people. And finally, vir ons Orania Beweging lede, ons ondersteuners, dankie dat julle ook met julle bydra dit vir ons moontlik maak om met groepe soos hierdie waarmee ons 'n gedeelde belang het te ontmoet. Dankie van wat ons help befonds. Dis werklik deur julle wat dit vir ons moontlik is om uit te reik na hierdie mense en 'n internasionale gemeenskap van gemeenskappe te vorm wat krities is ook vir die oorlewing van Afrikaners, maar ook vir die westerse beskawing. Baie dankie.